Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of ThreeDucksInAManSuit, where I take old stories I've narrated and update them to modern audio standards. This particular story is called The Boldest of Plans, written by 3DucksInAManSuit. Things dragons like. 10. High places. 9. Storms. 8. Being feared and or worshipped. 7. A good old-fashioned rampage of death and destruction. 6. Fighting. 5. Compliments. 4. Treasure. 3. Treasure. 2. Treasure. And 1. Treasure. The latest challenges have arrived. I licked my chops in anticipation, feeling liquid fire roll over my teeth, shimmering air surrounded my head, turning my inner chamber into a sauna. The party paused at my door, discussing their next move. It would have been child's play to take them then and there. I could have shapeshifted down to a humanoid size and not even needed to damage my door, but I've always had a bit of a flair for the dramatic. I brushed some of the dust off my body and stretched my wings, trying to shake out the itch as I wait. Finally, they ready themselves and opened the doors, striding through like they own the place. Their cocky expressions dry up like spittle on a scorched desert road as they lay eyes on the deathly smile worn by creatures so huge it could swallow them whole. Then their gaze drops to what lies beneath my feet. I lounge upon a mountain of treasure, a 1,000-year hoard gathered from fallen kingdoms and lost cities. Some of it conquered by tooth, claw, and flame, some of it gifted by devoted worshippers seeking my favor, or hoping their contribution will spare their kingdom from my wrath. This is what they came for. Their eyes light up. I take a quick head count. The leopard skins and prodigious collection of scar tissue marks the half-orc as a barbarian. How traditional. The carefully polished armor and shiny-looking holy symbol the dwarf wore around his neck marked him as a paladin. Or was it a her? I've hard enough time discerning genders or races that actually have obvious differences between them. They were the vanguard. In the rear, a wood elf clothed in green held a bow, a ranger. That would explain how they got past my trap so easily. And another elf dressed in robes and holding a staff, either a wizard or a sorceress. Sorcerer, again, who can really tell? Was it just these four? Most parties who come to challenge me have more. Oh, wait. I sense another. Yes, I feel the movements of a small humanoid, probably a halfling or gnome. Moving through the passage behind me, I carved out one weekend for shits and giggles. Most likely a rogue. I don't react to their presence. Who dares disturb my slumber? What creatures seek their doom at my claws? We come to rid the land of your pestilence, foul dragon. Too long have the good people of this world suffered your unnecessary tyranny. The dwarf's overblown response would have been more convincing if his eyes weren't straying constantly to the treasure he obviously was already divvying up in his head. Dwarves, they just can't help it. If you come to do battle, then you have seen your last day, mortal. I stand from my treasure hoard, lifting my wings above me and letting my presence fill the room. Ah yes, they weren't looking at the treasure now. Good. The barbarian goes first, flying into a rage as he charges at me, clearly not one for dialogue. I let loose with a belly full of fire that has been resting impatiently within me. The cave is filled with the stench of burning half-orc. Your state of rage might have turned blades and hammers of your fellow soldiers, little one, but it won't save you from dragon fire. My scales register the impact of a powerful spell as a sorceress casts her magic, something earth-based. It hurts, but not too much. Ah, the joy of combat. Instead of falling for the distraction, I strike with my tail and catch the sneaking rogue mid-leap. Poor little thing was relying on its stealth too much. The edge of my tail catches it like a whip, and the halfling is torn in two. I never even laid eyes on it. The paladin actually withstands the first swipe of my claws, giving their ranger a chance to send an arrow into underside of my throat. It was actually a damn impressive shot. Made more so by the immediately recognizable feeling of poison trying to spread through the wound. I roar at the back line. over the dwarf's head and feel their wills crumble. They keep up their attacks, but their discipline has wavered. The paladin tries to strike with a warhammer at my jaw, but I avoid the strike and send him clear across the room with a back swipe. Then I pounce, a short scream as the ranger turns to a bloody mess under my claws. The sorceress turns to flee. I stretch out my neck and bring my jaws down on her. She is dead in the first bite, swallowed whole in the second. Shouldn't have done that. I'd be hawking up hidden daggers and bits of jewelry for hours. It's just the paladin now. He staggers to his feet, blood dripping down from his brutal head wound that would likely have incapacitated a less robust species. He heals himself with a word, leaving nothing but the stains on his armor. Then he raises his hammer, only to gape in despair as he realizes he is the only member of his party left. I revel in his pain for a few sweet moments, then take a deep breath and send him to the underworld, cooking him alive in his armor. Fight over. That was a few weeks ago, and now I'm bored. Truly skilled adventurers like that are a rarity. Perhaps I should have savored the combat more. Since then, it's just been me sitting here on my giant mountain of treasure, sleeping and eating from my food store, which will dry up soon. I should probably go hunt. Then finally, I feel it, another presence entering the lair. Impatient after my long wait, I cast a spell to remotely view the creature. It's a human. The youngest of the mortal races. They are also the one I know the least about. They have short lifespans and nothing particularly spectacular about their biology or magical affinity. As far as I know, their biggest advantages are their tendency towards aggressive expansion and their general lack of weaknesses. Smarter than orcs, but not as strong. Tougher than elves, but not as magical. A racial drac of all trades. Just one. No armor. Only a dagger at his side. I could sense a small amount of treasure on him, but if he had come to make an offering, it would take more than that pittance. Sheer curiosity made me deactivate my traps, letting him wander in. Did he have some kind of plan for bringing me down? Can't wait to see if it works. Who dares disturb my slumber? What creature seeks their doom at my claws? The human stops entering my chamber, squinting in the magical torchlight. Then he sweeps off the fine hat he was wearing and moves rather gracefully into the flowing bow. Great sir, or Madam Dragon, my honor to make your acquaintance. I blink, somewhat bewildered. I am female. Madam Dragon, then, I come not to do battle or to die helplessly at your mighty claws. I hope, but rather to offer you an opportunity. No adventurer had ever opened a conversation like this before. I could just eat him, but he smelled strangely unappealing, vaguely floral. Not bad, just not edible. Also, did he call my claws mighty? You may speak. The human smiled and eloquently spoke. I listened carefully. Then he gave me a map, bowed again, and left my lair unharmed. 2 days later, I made my decision. I was meticulous as always when locking up my treasure. I bent the magic of the land to fold the entire lair into a closed dimension, rendering it inaccessible to any but me. Just to be safe, I also surrounded it with an alarm ward that would give me a warning when intruded upon. Then I shook off the cramps of lying still for too long, stretched out my wings, and took a deep breath of cool mountain air, and took off. It was a short flight. The destination the human had marked on the map wasn't too far off. Probably why he'd come to me and not any of my brothers and sisters in their own territories. I felt the panic of thousands of lesser creatures below, especially from the elven forest and the orc tribes I very deliberately flew over. I roared as I passed and almost fell from the air in laughter as screams of panic erupted from the ground. All too soon I saw my destination before me. Good. The human was either not attempting to deceive me, or he had put a great deal of effort into the con to get me out of my lair. Anything else would be greatly insulting. The Eyrie was positioned on a mountain top almost as tall as my own. Several buildings gathered in a wide cluster with more than enough room for me to land and maneuver my bulk around. It was quite an impressive construction, very sturdy without sacrificing its artistic flair. On the main platform, several humans stood near the edge, watching me. I flew in a circle above the facility for a while, examining it from every angle and tasting the air. The humans were afraid, as the others had been, but they did not panic. Instead, the fear was overridden by a very different emotion, a hardened resolve. That could either mean that they were determined to do things right, or that this was a con after all. I gave them the benefit of the doubt and landed on the platform. It was quite the breathtaking view of a wide valley from up here. A storm raged far below, lending a soothing music to the atmosphere. How lovely. The human who had visited my lair stepped forward and swept a different hat from his head in a now familiar gesture. The House of Maxwell greets the mighty Dragon of Light, Lady Ouroboros, to our humble estate. We assure you that you will not regret this decision. The 24 or so humans standing behind him bowed in unison with him, a rather attractive display of coordinated servitude. All of them had that same pleasant but unappetizing scent to them. Even if it was all a hoax, the sheer amusement I'd gotten out of it already made the trip worth it. I snorted in a plume of smoke as my response and narrowed my eyes, raising a claw. I hefted a bag heavier than the human was and dropped it at my feet, where it landed with a crash. Every human eye was fixed to it except for Lord Maxwell, who kept a professional smile fixed to his face as he indicated over his shoulder for 2 of his staff. They timidly approached, looked at me as if I could attack at any moment. When they opened the bag, they both audibly gulped at the sight of more treasure than they had likely ever seen in their lives before, a mere dribble of my hoard. They nodded to the assembly in confirmation. More humans came with a cart to haul the bag off. I didn't watch them go. The treasure had a tracking spell placed on it, so hiding it would be useless. I would probably be taking that back soon. Proceed, human. I want to see if you can deliver on what you have promised. Of course, Lady Ouroboros. Right this way. The building was huge by human standards. A great deal of effort had clearly gone into its construction. It was very open, designed with shuttered windows that, when all opened, allowed excellent airflow and light. Within the center was a pool of magically heated water, more than big enough for my bulk. Beside it, a group of burly humans sat carefully washing their bare feet. Nice touch. I sunk into the water, feeling it soak into my scales. Oh, yes, this was most pleasant. The humans had added something to it which made the water smell delightful and feel strangely soothing. The humans who had been washing their feet lined up before me and bowed, requesting permission, which I gave. Despite that, they were still shaking with nerves when they climbed onto my back, tiptoeing, as if one hard footfall would see them eaten alive. Good. It wouldn't do for them to forget their... They went to work with their tools, small hooks, stripping under my scales and cleaning detritus from where it had gathered. After that, they scrubbed with a hard bristles brush and some kind of water that smelled of citrus. Then finished with a polish and a soft cloth. After the scale, massage, and bath, I was politely requested to step out and display my claws and wings. Men and women went to work with growing confidence as I visibly relaxed at their actions. My claws were placed in clamps clearly designed specifically for this, and a hand-powered grinder device sharpened and smoothed out the hard enamel. They went over the bony ridges on my wings with a similar kind of grinder and massaged the muscles, hitting the aches I hadn't even known was there. The citric water was used to clean and polish the wing membrane. As they did this, a number of humans in distinctly white uniforms, different from the others who were mostly shirtless in the hot steam, came out from the door at the back of the room, wheeling a roasted cow that had been spiced and cooked to perfection. The chef described in great detail where the ingredients used to prepare it had come from and how they had been used as I ate. I could barely pay attention because it was so delicious. They followed it up with a tub of creamy brownish food the chef called chocolate mousse. I dipped my cautious tongue into it and felt a jolt run down my spine. A few squawks of instinctive fear popped out from humans as my body jerked, surprising them. But I didn't care. I love chocolate mousse. They cleaned my teeth, some younger, extremely nervous humans leaning in to run a brush over each one and using a wire and a hook to remove bits of food stuck in. There were some sparks of pain as they got deep into my gums. But it was a good pain, like removing arrows I had not known were still in me. I even rolled over and let them have a go at my belly. They were rubbed cream onto the old arrow wounds, soothing the reddened skin that never quite healed up properly. The stronger humans worked with their bare hands to massage the skin and muscles. When it was all done, I was shown to a room with a gigantic polished mirror. My scales glowed. A glistening sheen of smooth oil made me shine like a newborn. Old aches and pains were gone. My teeth were brilliantly white, and my skin and scales were free of any imperfections. I looked and felt fantastic. I didn't take my gold back as I left. They could have it. I would be coming back and do this again. In the office of Lord Maxwell, third son of the noble Maxwell family, a few minutes after the dragon had flown off, Lord Maxwell and his closest partner sat slumped into their luxury leather chairs that they had painstakingly hauled up this mountain top and began to laugh. The mirth of one man fed that of the next, and before long all 4 men and 1 woman were in a state of total hysterics. It was a relieved laughter after years of nerves leading up to this very moment finally came unraveled. It was a laughter of having pulled off the impossible. It had worked. The plan had worked. The first ever resort and spa that catered exclusively to the truly wealthiest individuals of this world. Dragons. Years of planning, of doubts, of senior family members scoffing and calling them crazy, of hardships in finding people with both the skills and the sheer insanity to accept the job. The difficulty in synthesizing a wearable scent that would make them unappealing to the dragon's taste without actually repelling them. The accusations and desperation when they had run out of money. 1,000 things that couldn't have gone wrong, all for this moment. Alexander was still appraising it all, but even at a conservative guess, the treasure from Lady Ouroboros had more than tripled the entire investment in a single hit. The crazy third son of the Maxwells, the great scandalous black sheep of the family, was now its wealthiest member. Sudi's father would be asking him for a loan. The thought added to his mirth. He admired a single gold coin from the treasure that sat on his desk. It was from a kingdom that had collapsed before the time of his great-grandfather's grandfather. He decided then and there to keep this on his desk, the first piece of a dragon's hoard ever successfully won by a mortal. He held it up to the light, still chuckling with relief. It was his father said, after all, if God ever fell, the weapon to slay him would not be any runic blade or magic spell. It would be capitalism. Things dragons like: 10 high places, 9 storms, 8 being feared and or worshipped, 7 a good old-fashioned rampage of death and destruction, 6 fighting, 5 compliments, 4 treasure, 3 treasure, 2 treasure, 1 a really good massage. End of story. I would just like to thank the T5 supporters: Bushmaster 117, Casper Arnholtz, Draxoon WRE, Elijah Silvercross, Gray, John Carrington, and Severin Cerberus. Thank you very much.